A prequel series to a prequel movie chronicling the backstory of the guy who stole the Death Star plans shouldn't be more compelling than the backstories of Darth Vader or Boba Fett, but maybe it is.
Yep.
Andor is one of the best modern stories in the Star Wars galaxy, highlighting in granular detail the human costs and struggles of a revolution and how an ordinary man could transform his entire life for a rebellion. As powerful as Andor Season 1 was, it originally aired in 2022, a long time ago, even if not from a galaxy far away. Before you get into the show's second and final season, this is everything you need to know about Season 1 of Andor. This is the story of Cassian Andor, the rebel leader from Rogue One, 5 years before that movie's events. The entirety of this season is broken into 4 3-episode arcs, each showcasing a different step in Andor's turn against the Empire, along with the progress of the rebellion as a whole, as told through key figures in that journey. When audiences first became acquainted with Cassian Andor in Rogue One, he was a resourceful, accomplished, and well-respected rebellion intelligence officer. He is depicted differently than most previous rebellion members, exhibiting practicality and shrewdness paired with an abiding hatred for the Empire. The tone of Andor largely follows that and is unlike anything else in the rest of Star Wars. It's dark and desperate. It shows what life is like for the powerless under the boots of the Empire and the violent cruelties that would force the rebellion of Star Wars Episode 4, A New Hope. What was previously shown on film to be more of a simple black and white morality, bad guys versus good guys situation is much more gray in Andor. Heroes sometimes do bad things, on occasion, dreadful things, because as the show posits, those means may be the only option in the face of brutally oppressive totalitarianism. In short, this is not a Star Wars for the kiddos. And to prove it, the first scene of Andor Season 1 is the main character shooting 2 guys in an alley behind a brothel. Would C-3PO do that? I don't think so.
Dear, I'm terribly sorry about all this.
They threatened and attacked him, and the first guy's death was an accident in Cassian's defense. As they were enforcers for a security firm aligned with the Galactic Empire, this would become a life-altering event. When we first meet Cassian Andor, he lives on Ferrix, a working-class planet under the Empire, and in search of his long-lost sister. They were separated in childhood when they once lived on Kenari, a planet devastated by mining operations that left children as the only survivors. Young Cassian was adopted by Marva and Clem Andor, 2 scavengers from Ferrix, to save him from Imperials. It's unclear where his sister is or if she is even still alive. Marva loved her adopted son for the rest of her life, and unfortunately Cassian's adopted dad, Clem, was publicly executed for protesting Imperial occupation following the Clone Wars. There is plenty of long brewing resentment among the independent people of Ferrix for the overreach of the Galactic Empire following the proclamation of its founding and rule. Back to adult Cassian, he's in trouble because of the 2 guys he's suspected of murdering. We know the event to be a little more complicated than that, but to the Imperial crony chasing him, Cyril Karn, it was murder. Luthen Rael gives him a choice: join the fight against the Empire for real, or let the Empire sort him out. So Cassian joins the rebel cause with a first mission to rob an Imperial armory with a ragtag team of rebels. In the training, he befriends a young idealist revolutionary, Nemik, who introduces him to a new concept. When fighting a monolith with no moral boundaries, any means necessary is the only path to justice. To him, there is no room for complacency or hesitation if they expect to be free from the Empire. The heist is a success, but not without losses. 2 loyal teammates are killed, including Nemik, and his manifesto is passed on to Cassian, which inches his belief further away from individualism and more toward Nemik's resistance ideals. Case in point,
there's a moon 8 parsecs from here with nobody home. Put that thing down, catch our breath, split up the winnings so this will...
That makes 3 mission casualties. Still, Cassian takes his share and leaves the cause just as abruptly as he joined. It was just a job. He goes home to Marva and tells her he has enough money to get them out of Ferrix. They can live happily in a neutral zone. But She is too frail, and more importantly to her, too loyal to her people and the rebellion to ever leave them. She tells him to go without her, which he has to do as a wanted man in an increasingly hostile territory. He makes it to Niamos, where he is sentenced to 6 years in prison for loitering? Looking sweaty? I'm not sure what, but that's the Empire for you, especially in Space Florida. He is forced to join a back-breaking prison labor group where all the prisoners are stuck in a tortuous, inhumane situation, which they later find out they actually have zero prospect of ever leaving. So, with every semblance of legality or fairness dashed, Cassian organizes a rebellion to break out and succeeds, with most prisoners swimming free to safety. He splits with fellow escapee Melshi, who swears up and down that people need to know about the injustices the prisoners faced, and Cassian goes into hiding. He quickly finds out Marva has died and her funeral is soon, but as anyone can guess,
it's a trap!
Luthen Rael is a new character introduced in Andor, and certainly one of the most memorable. He's a resistance leader so central that Imperial intelligence dubs him Axis, and he seems to deal with almost everyone opposing the Empire and has a network of spies embedded in seemingly every pocket of the galaxy. Luthen is a bit like Batman in that his mask is pretending to be a rich idiot in order to fly under the radar, when in reality he is singularly focused on his version of justice. But unlike Batman, he is more than happy to kill. He runs an antiquity shop as a front, but really only cares about galvanizing rebel forces and utilizes ruthless and cutthroat methods from the shadows. Luthen remains a mysterious figure, though his main goal is clear: destroy the Empire by any means necessary. When Luthen first shows up, he recruits Cassian for the heist mission, and after hearing of its success, he orders for Cassian to be eliminated, as the last thread tied back to him. See? Ruthless. He meets clandestinely with rebellion leaders Mon Mothma and Saw Gerrera, and clashes with both. To that end, he sacrifices one of Gerrera's contacts and 30 of his soldiers in order to protect a spy he's hidden among the Imperials. He sacrifices some other stuff too.
What do I sacrifice? Everything!
Ultimately, he shows he'll cut down anyone in service of hurting the Empire, and if even Cassian, a very useful person to employ, is a loose end dangling in the wind, Luthen says he'll cut him too.
People will suffer.
That's the plan.
Much expanded from her line about mysterious Bothans in Return of the Jedi and appearances in Revenge of the Sith, Rogue One, and more, Mon Mothma is the character most tied to other Star Wars media and the franchise's central storyline. In Andor, Mon is much more than she seems.
It's a lie. The Mon Mothma people think they know. It's a lie. It's a projection. It's a front. Smile. I've learned from Palpatine. If I show you the stone in my hand, you miss the knife at your throat.
She wears a mask of wealthy Coruscant frivolity, playing the role of a largely ineffectual senator when truly her goal is to use her position to raise money to fight the Empire right under their noses. While Luthen pretends to be a rich dummy focused on rich dumb things, unfortunately Mon Mothma's husband actually is. Mon almost always has her mask on and has few allies she can actually confide in. She's right to do it though, there are definitely Imperial spies in her orbit. Mon often meets with Luthen and bristles against his methods, including the heist which resulted in several casualties. She prefers to attack with a gentle hand and disapproves of draconian methods. However, Mon runs into trouble and isn't able to access her bank accounts to fund the rebellion due to all the Imperial monitoring. She could use a less traceable, more illegal banking method to funnel funds, but that may mean arranging a marriage between her daughter and a crime lord's son.
You might as well wear a sign that says, "I promise to disappoint you."
Meanwhile, there is another character who bristles against the status quo, but in a much less cool way and on the Imperial side. Cyril Karn is less like Luthen Rael and more like if Dwight Schrute was in Star Wars. An assistant to the regional Moff-ager, if you will. Ambitious, meticulous, but kind of pathetic. From his position as a Morlana 1 law enforcement officer, he takes an extra interest in pursuing Cassian Andor for murder. Again, I'm going to point out this incident was very arguably not murder, and Cyril's boss also said to not pursue it because it was probably not murder, but he pursues it anyway. After an absolute bungle of an attempt to apprehend Cassian on Ferrix, Cyril is disgraced and essentially fired, sent back home to his mom on Coruscant. Cyril becomes intent on clearing his name and proving to everyone that he was right about Cassian Andor. And eventually, from his new Imperial desk job, he becomes so annoying, he catches the attention of an Imperial security supervisor. No, I am not being mean. She basically says as much.
Been at the Bureau of Standards for less than a month, and you've filed 5 false inquiries.
6, actually.
I wasn't counting this morning. What are you doing, Mr. Khan?
She uses his information to follow a paper trail to Cassian Andor, and he becomes almost as weirdly obsessed with her as he is with Andor. Speaking of... Like Cyril, Dedra Meero is a diligent and methodical Imperial who sees beyond the bureaucracy and brown-nosing prominent among Imperial ranks and wants to zero in on a certain rebel agitator to quell the rising rebellion. Unlike Cyril, Dedra is very successful and impresses her superiors.
Imagine if everyone in this room played as loose with the rules as you.
Excellent suggestion, Blevin. I'm wondering where we'd be right now if everyone here showed the same endeavor as Supervisor Meero.
She often bends protocol to correctly close in on rebel operations, and Cassian himself following the trail of stolen Imperial equipment to Ferrix. There she leads Imperial efforts to harass Cassian's friends and neighbors more than usual, even torturing Cassian's friend, confidant, and Luthen connection, Bix Caleen, until she is barely able to walk and differentiate reality from hallucinations. Still, Bix does not give up Cassian, and Dedra gives the order to use Marva's funeral as a bait and trap to ensnare Andor and any other Imperial detractors. And that takes us back to Ferrix for Marva's funeral. There is a huge turnout. Marva was well respected as a community leader and was absolutely beloved by the people of Ferrix as a result. Her funeral is a big deal, especially to Imperial forces who hope it could draw the fugitive Andor out, where they could tighten the noose and stamp out rebel activity. Meanwhile, Luthen and his cohorts also hope for a Cassian appearance because Luthen still wants to kill him for being a loose end. The tension is high. There's anticipation as to what will happen if Cassian shows up, but also deep resentment in the air between Imperials and the people they very actively oppress. Ultimately, the suspense is cut when the Imperial prefect in charge of tormenting Ferrix has a hissy fit about Marva's final, hollow-recorded, anti-Empire speech.
If I could do it again, I'd wake up early and be fighting these bastards from the start. Fight the Empire!
This kicks off an all-out riot between the people and the stormtroopers, with those long simmering tensions finally bubbling over in spectacular fashion. Cyril, who isn't supposed to be there, saves Supervisor Meero, while Cassian largely stays out of the fray entirely, instead choosing to save his friends and get them off-world to safety. All alone, Cassian faces Luthen, but instead of fighting back, he gives him a choice. He can kill him, or Andor will formally and wholeheartedly join the rebellion. And we all know Luthen's ultimate choice. Just kidding. Seeing as this is a prequel of a prequel, we know Cassian will indeed go over to the rebellion as a major asset, earnestly and enthusiastically. This entire season was not about the destination, but instead, transformation. This was how Andor became Andor. We watched growing disgust crystallize into genuine and earned hatred and outright rejection of unchecked tyranny. It was about the audacity of the Empire, which slowly but definitively turned normal, peaceful people into vengeful fighters. And as we approach the next and final installment of Andor, we'll see just how far they will get. Will Cyril Karn and Dedra Meero become guiding lights of the Empire? What will happen to Bix, Brasso, B2EMO, and Andor's other friends? When will a K2SO unit radicalize? Which characters, besides Andor himself, Mon Mothma, and Saw Gerrera, live or die? Will Luthen ditch his bad wig full-time? Now that the runway's built, there is so much possibility for where Andor Season 2 will go. Again, it's not about the destination, but how and why we get there. And with the execution of Season 1 so beautifully and expertly done, I can't wait to see what this team shows us next. Andor Season 2 starts April 22nd on Disney+.